Lord, we just come to you with our hearts open, our hands open and palms up, looking to receive gifts. So gifts may be passed on, may be given away as freely as you give them to us, Lord. And so we just look for your Spirit to be upon us, your words to be here, and for the message to resonate with whoever is listening, right? We ask you to move in their hearts, to move in their lives, to let them see a different possibility that wasn't there this morning or before they hit play, whether they're on a treadmill or in a car or walking or alone, sad and weeping or celebrating on a mountaintop, Lord. You are there, and you are there with us, and you want to be on that journey with us. So let us submit to you and invite you into our hearts so that we may be on purpose to do your will and be your hands and feet. Your son's name we pray. Amen. Well, welcome back. I have Cristie Penn here with us. If you haven't listened to the prior episode, I recommend you hit pause and jump back to that. This one's going to be a great standalone on its own right and be totally worth it. But there's some amazing foundational content presented. So the original question was, have you ever been confused by someone of the other sex, right? A man or a woman. Have you ever been confused at how they operate or how to communicate or how to share? And we are going to dive right into a lot of valuable hows in this episode. So my name's Gabriel Griess, founder of Navigating Leaders and your host of the podcast where we awaken your vision to live boldly. So welcome back, Cristie. So good to have you here.
Thank you.
So we're going to dive into your book, right? The Keys for Us. And what I want to just share with everybody listening is there's something here for every human on the planet, has been on the planet, or ever will be on the planet, because it's really a book about communication. And it's really focused on communication across the sexes. Right, man to woman, woman to man, and that we discussed earlier, we have a different operating system. We have a different way of thinking, processing, compartmentalizing, managing, moving through things, dealing with emotions, dealing with challenges and problems, whatever it is. We just approach them differently. Not wrong, not right or wrong, not better or worse, just different. And so in those moments of increased energy or stress or frustration or concern or fear, the opportunity for miscommunication just goes through the roof, right? And, what's more stressful than raising children and building businesses and, driving to work every day? So pretty much life is stressful, right? And so to all the listeners here, whether faith-based or not, the material that we're about to talk about works. It works well. It works not only on myself, but those around me. Mm-hmm. And it does so in a honoring, truthful, forward-facing, loving, communicative, vulnerable way versus some sort of manipulation or, tactic or process where it's I win, you lose. Right? This is a real win-win conversation,
That's right.
I think. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Fair? Okay.
Very fair.
So in the last episode, you told us about the storybook Prince Charming, the tall, handsome gentleman comes and whisks your daughter away, and you're fearful that he's going to break her heart. Mm-hmm. And what we found out was it was your heart was the one that was broken, right? Which is hard, very hard. And you'd been in a marriage for a long time. That was, by outward appearances, wonderful and amazing and doting and successful, but empty and hurtful and sad.
Yes, sir.
And God said, I need you to do something. And you said, I don't want to, but I'll try.
Right.
So tell us what you tried.
Well, one by one, because God is a good teacher, and he's very tender. He began to give me one thing at a time that we now call keys, like look at your husband, even from across the room, make eye contact and smile at him. Say thank you, audibly, verbally, for anything I see that he does for me or for the family. It started pretty much simple like that. So I began to do each thing, and the directive I felt like I had in my heart was do that until it becomes a habit. And you might not know it's a habit, but when I, God the Father, see it as a habit, I'll give you the next one, and then you'll know you've mastered that one.
So the first one is acknowledgement. Who doesn't want to be acknowledged?
Right. And I think for a lot of us, male and female, if you feel like you're unseen and you are not being valued like you should, you tend to start self-protecting, and you don't want to give somebody more ammunition to hurt you because you love them and you don't want to be fresh out of the love tank. So you start kind of protecting. And as I've taught this in conferences, every single time when we get to a break, women will come up to me and say, you don't know how difficult those two things will be for me. And I look at them and say, yes, I do. And one of the, I guess, concerns I have is that people will think Don and I have it all figured out. We don't. And every time we lead a small group, he'll be the one to say, don't think for a minute we don't still struggle. But at least this gives us a reminder of how to come back.
Cristie and I always say we're on the same team.
That is so
when
good.
When we go toe-to-toe, we're on the same team.
And to remind each other of that verbally is really powerful.
Well, we use it for de-escalation.
It's good.
Right? It's like, it's the weirdest thing, something that is innocuous, and all of a sudden it starts bubbling up, and I'm like, we're about to fight. Like, we don't really fight. I'm like, hey, we're on the same team.
When you start feeling the defense mechanism, So basically what happened is I kept doing the things, and I noticed.
So we got acknowledgement. What's next?
I would say obedience.
You to your husband.
Me to God, and trusting God with my husband.
Oh.
Because remember, God had kind of shown me, you don't get to measure this. Like I wasn't healthy enough to measure it. I didn't know what was going on in my husband, so how could I have known that? So over time, he stopped walking out of the room in the middle of a conversation because he really wasn't listening. Now, it wasn't because he was rude. It was because his head was still at work. And one of the keys is giving men transition time.
So Cristie and I had this when we lived in D.C., newly married.
Oh.
And so I worked in Alexandria. So we lived in Crystal City, worked in Alexandria. It's just a few miles, but old town. And some days I would drive. Other days I would walk and ride the train. And how I walked in the door after work was distinctly different if I had driven or if I'd ridden the train and read the newspaper.
Yeah.
How I showed up was entirely different.
Because you had transition time.
Time to decompress and to prepare for what I was moving into and and file away what I'd been doing earlier in the day.
Exactly. Yeah. And women who work full-time outside of the home, because women, one of the keys about women is we are extremely adaptable. God created us to be able to adapt on a dime. Different kids, different needs. With our female radar, that's another key. Our female radar, we can sense things going on in a space that a man cannot sense. A man can be trained to do it, but we come out of the womb with it. Studies show that when you put a baby boy in a crib and you turn a ceiling fan on and put faces around that crib looking down on him, most baby boys will stare at the fan. The baby girls will look at the faces around the crib. It's amazing as you start really studying it. So I digress, but what happened with us is I started doing those things, and would feel myself thinking, it's not working. I don't know if I can continue to do this, but I had made a promise that I was going to go as far in all the way through as I could.
So did you judge yourself in the journey?
I was so focused on obeying, I didn't.
Good.
Now, some may have, but I had been in this long lag period for so long. It was exciting to think that I had something to do different that might work. So
You had exhausted everything that Cristie was capable of coming up with 1,000 times over.
we had been married around 32, 33 years, and I had been operating in my faith for, I don't know what the math is, but long enough to have exhausted everything I knew to do, so I thought. But here's the thing. Now that I look back at it, I remember, well, let me tell you this first because it'll make more sense. So I'm not focused on getting feedback. I'm focused on just doing the thing until each one became a habit. So it became part of who I was. And it lined up with God's identity and intention for me as a woman. One day he came home like he still does.
Dawn.
Every day. Get the mail, take it to the utility room, put it on the island. Hey, how are you? How was your day? Just going through the mail. Every day. Same amount of time, same everything. And I walked by. I had learned about transition time, leave him alone, greet him, and let him do his thing. And I walked by the door, and he said, hey, Chris, will you come here a minute? I walked in. He doesn't even look up. He's still going through the mail. And he goes, I don't know what you're doing to me, but I feel like a guinea pig with benefits, a lab rat. And he goes, and I really like it. And I said, great. And I just backed out of the room, went around the corner, and slid down the wall and tried to keep from sobbing because I knew that it wasn't my imagination. I knew that he was really recognizing and his heart was changing toward me. I got my composure, stood back up, walked by the door again. He called me back in. Hey, will you come here for just a minute? And I walked in there and I go, yeah. He said, I think you should write a book about what you're doing because it's changed our marriage. Now, did I see a dramatic change? No. But I knew that he was, as I looked back, he was coming closer. For years, I felt like we were suited up in our armor, on horses with our jousting sticks, waiting for the gun to go off, and we would see who could knock the one off. Now, that sounds extreme, but when you're raising kids and you're trying to keep your wits about you, and if you are a stay-at-home mom, there's not a lot going in that you can measure. So when he would say things and make me feel, my bad, like I didn't matter or I was insignificant, I became extremely offended. So what had happened, and sometimes I give the analogy of being in a boxing ring, you know, but what I would do is I would get frustrated and I could, being a female, beat him to death with my words. And he, being an engineer, would kind of shut down and he would never violently hit me or headbutt me or anything like that. But emotionally, now that I look back, he would shut down so he would not hurt me with his tongue. Mm-hmm. But he spent a lot of time in that place. And what would I do? You know, I told people, I was like, I felt like a chihuahua hanging onto the cuff of his dress pants sometimes. So what happened was there was just more of a steady respect and value after a while. So much so that he had to verbalize it. So when he said, I think you need to write a book about it, I was like, well, that is not me, and that is not ever going to happen, he stayed on me for a year.
It's amazing when God uses our spouse to tell us
Isn't
something.
it? Spouse or kids, it's just so powerful. So after about a year, I surrendered to that thought and had no idea how it was going to happen. But that's when we wrote the first book. And then the second book was more of, let's look at the background and see how because that became a huge question. God, how did we get here? How did we get to a place where the way God set up family, how did this war against male and female evolve into, or maybe even began with, the war on family, God's family? If the most valuable thing in the universe to God is family, then why are we surprised that he's trying to break up the physical, natural family that could then blow up the spiritual family because people are not walking in their identity?
And the he in this case is the big bad guy, the devil.
Yes.
Yeah.
So God has this idea, Satan has this idea, and he's been at it. I mean, we know from the garden, but no, in our culture, when I realized how countercultural this message of the Genesis identity of male and female and family, and then just watch around us what has happened to family. And so I started really having to press into, how does that make God feel?
Oh, when it's children, breaks his heart. Well, let's dive into the book, right? So, Keys for Us, right? And where can people get a copy of this besides wherever books are sold? What's your website?
Cristie, well, the website is keysforus.com.
Okay.
The handle for social media is not that. It is my name.
Cristie Penn with
at
CR.
At
right.
Cristie Penn with no H.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as we get into this, there are so many keys, and we'll may just read over some of them so people understand the breadth. And then there's a series of action questions in the back, right? So it's a manual on how to learn to communicate, frankly, right, across genders. And this applies in marriages and dating and school and work and everywhere. And so let me kind of dig into, I've got so many notes here. Well, this is one, right? And so this is an example, and I think it summarizes, especially in light of where we're at with divorce and single parent households and just the challenges we look at is that you specifically speak into, and we'll get into some of the skills, right? That men and women are different, right? Men are hunters, they are warriors, in some cases they're healers, right? And women are more, comforters and collectors and beautifiers and whatnot, right? We just have different natural ways of being.
Right. And
so there's a passage in here that I kind of want to look at, and I'll go back a little further. And it says, without the presence of godly masculinity in the community, women start to feel even worse. They now often feel invisible, ignored, abandoned, and exposed. And those totally go against their need for protection and provision, right? Over time, women became even louder and more aggressive out of pain and fear, right? And that's a beautiful phrase, because so often when people act out or out of sort, it is generally driven by pain or fear, although not being expressed that way, may not even be understood, right? And so we get deeper in here, and it says, deep inside, there was a war going on, truth. They ceased to feel safe, right? And it is essential for women to feel safe. In other words, women have picked up the sword that men have dropped, choosing to protect themselves and their children with a weapon that was never fitted for them. And I have this image, right? I have the image of you sitting here, right? For anybody listening, right? Cristie's, would you say 5'1", and maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. And so I think of a large sword, right? And it'd be unwieldy. It would be hard for you to wield a sword, right? And in that same light, it made me think of David and Goliath, right? As David didn't choose Saul's armor or his shield or his sword. He stayed with what he was natural to, right? Which is the sling, and to be nimble and to be who he was designed to be. And then it goes on to say there's a problem that when women are seen as different, men are seen as normal, then the rationale flows like this. Men are normal. Women are not men. Women are not normal. So how do you teach around that? How do you help people honor the difference between men and women, and that we all have a role to play, and that role was divinely given to us? None better, none worse, not right or wrong. How do you help people be in their role?
Well, one of the things that I've learned recently that's been a little bit shocking, I'm a relationship coach, and what I've seen is that a lot of people need help with how to, first of all, view the opposite gender. And it is a book about communication, but the very first starting point for most women is to learn how to see and communicate with themselves.
I think that's true for all of us.
I think it is too. And I have realized that this message can be considered countercultural, but the first thing is to go back, which the questions in the back for discussion is, some of them kind of go into, where'd you get your ideas? Because we don't even recognize that our ideas are in many cases learned from the environment we grew up in. We are a product of our environment until we start waking up and being aware and having to pull that thread back to find out, why do I believe that? So to answer your question, it starts with us individually, but God began to show me in this process that men and women are different. But the first thing I needed to understand was that the men in my life were not necessarily what I thought they were. In other words, one night in the very beginning, we were doing a Bible study, about 45 people upstairs in our house, and we would start with a worship song. Lights are low, everybody's just holding their paper and singing the words to the song, kind of to steady our hearts. And in my soul, I felt like God said, open your eyes and look at the faces of the men in this room. And I argued, no, I'm in the zone. It was like, no, open your eyes. And it makes me emotional to this day, because this was a huge starting point. I looked around, and in this room with dim lights, the only faces I saw around the room were men. The women faded out. And I knew these men. I mean, it was half and half probably. We had a team of leaders too, but I wasn't looking at them. I was looking at the faces of these men around the room. And I heard God say in my heart, you think they're one thing, they're another. If you women had any idea how much the men in this room fear disappointing you, it would change your life. And it changed my life that day. And I felt like he was saying they all have a little boy in their heart that would climb the highest mountain, bloody their elbows, their palms, and their knees. And the moment they got to the top of the mountain, they would snap their head to look at their woman to see if they were worthy.
Look at me!
Yeah. Aren't I strong? And it's changed the way I see men everywhere, including my 4 and 8-year-old grandsons. So that changed my vocabulary because it changed my lenses. It started with that. So whenever I teach this at a conference, one of the first things I say is, men, I am here not to chastise you, but to apologize to you for what our generation has done to your masculinity. And ladies, if you are offended by what I'm saying, you'll get it if you hang on. But these men are afraid of us because the emasculation of men since the 60s, when I was in first grade, has done a number on them, and they don't know what we want, and they are formed to try to give us what we want.
We're fixers.
And I've learned, do not verbalize something I desire to my husband unless I know that it's a good thing for us, because more than likely he's going to try very hard to provide it for me.
So Cristie and I are in that space, and what we've learned is, for us, is, hey, we're dreaming, or we're fantasizing, or we're exploring, or we're what if, like we're, and so when we caveat that moment with the, hey, there's no responsibility to make this come true. Then we can kind of play and have fun with it. But what you said is so true, is that she would say something and I would dream along until it began to butt up against what I thought our budgetary constraint would be. And then I would start to try and put her dream in a box that I could fulfill. And then she's like, that's not what I want. And I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, well, that's what we can afford. Or that's what my limited belief system will give us. Like, or
just being honest.
Or we do want to send the kids to college, so like, you know, and so my brain then starts doing the how. Right? The let me be the magician that makes this come true.
Yes. It's true.
I actually had read and marked up the climb the mountain and skin knees thing.
It's so precious.
Well, so we're going to go to Japan this summer, and the boys and I are going to hike Fuji, climb Mount Fuji together, and the girls are going to go to a spa.
Of course.
Because they're like, we don't. She's like, I don't know. I have no interest in this. I'm like, well, Michaela could go, and she's like, I'll take MG to the spa. so we'll do an overnight hike to catch sunrise on the top of Mount Fuji. So it'll be fun.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, and to answer your question about women, you know, I think there are so many things about this message that have been heartbreaking to me, but God often breaks our heart to show us the truth, to let us feel that lie maybe that we've been believing. And one of the things that breaks my heart for women, especially now that I've lived long enough and looked at this message long enough, that there is such an angst within most women's hearts because culture's told them how strong they must be. And the subliminal message is, men really are going to disappoint you, so you better be prepared to do this thing on your own just in case. So now we look at a culture of...
Well, that forces them then to enter relationships 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Amen.
Like, let me not surrender all the way because then I'm going to get hurt.
It's true. And there is anger. And what I've learned is anger is almost always a secondary emotion. There's usually fear, confusion, something else kind of driving it. But I've seen women pick up men's swords and wield it at them to the point that men aren't just confused, they're just in many ways giving up. And the whole term toxic masculinity that's been so, I don't even know the word, suggested and pressed out there, but yet now enough time has gone that a lot of young women are realizing, when I get still and stop the inner voices and the chaos in my heart of what I think I'm supposed to be and do, the truth is I do want a man in my life. I just don't want to look like I'm needy. And there is a very different meaning behind a man wanting to be needed by a woman and a needy woman, because men are designed for partnership and have the team gene. They want someone who honors and respects them and knows they bring something different, but at the same time, he wants somebody that's going to fight with him, beside him, and not fight him specifically. So there's very beautiful differences. We call it the zipper effect, that God intentionally left voids in both of the genders so that we need what the other one brings. But you have to admit you don't have it all in order to investigate what that might be.
Well, and together we can be more whole and complete. And I can't look to my spouse or partner to fix me, right, or to fill something, or to, to close some wound, or get, that's not how it works, right? That's where codependency comes from. Right. So I get to be whole and complete and strong and independent and capable and all those things in my own right, and then step into that relationship fully committed, fully vulnerable, fully present, fully loving, and then in that partnership can move from there.
Right.
Yeah.
And when we do, so the whole point was for us to be a reflection of God,
who is whole and complete. Yeah. All right. So I want to get us to some gritty, applicable to do things, right? This is the guy, and right?
I like it.
All right. So you have a chart in here that has male functions and female functions. And so I'm just going to read. I'm on page 27. Okay. Right. So the male functions are hunter, warrior, and king. Right. Female, collector, connector, nurturer, queen, or co-leader. Right. I love that you talk about, and this is also biblical, right? That man's origin was from the dirt. That Adam was formed out of the dirt, and that the woman was of his flesh and bone, right? Took a rib. Men are solid and women are fluid, right? This was super interesting for me, and I see it, right? The male emotional operation is really singularly focused. Right, they can really hone in on a single item and just continue to drive towards that. And you say telescope, and then for the female, you have multitask and radar, right? That greater sense. And these are brilliant, right? The male primary need is honor and respect. I absolutely lose my mind with my kids when they don't honor and respect. It's the one thing that gets me completely off center. And my daughter, who's a total doppelganger of me, can do it instantly. Like, good morning, Daddy. Now I'm off center. After the next step, I'm off center, right? She has me wrapped around her finger. And then female primary needs, protection and provision, right? And so people have just got to get the book and dig into this, because you really get into the why. But I want to get into some of the keys, right? Okay. So key 1, 2, and 3 on page 42, right? Captivate, cultivate, and communicate. So let's talk about those three.
So in chapter 5, key 1 for men, the very first key is captivate. And under captivate are all these little sub-keys that show women, and maybe men too, how to captivate a man's heart or attention. So there's an intro about that, but like, for instance, I've mentioned some already, but under captivate, men crave partnership and need to be part of a team. It is good for women to know that that's the lenses they see through. So when women are extremely gifted in sports, that can be a real captivating thing for men, but he doesn't like to be beat every time.
Do you know what Christie's golf score is?
What?
2 better than whatever I shoot. She always beats me by 2 strokes.
How's that feel?
It's kind of cool. I give her a hard
She's
time
strong.
about it, but yeah,
She's a great partner.
our entire marriage. She's always
been a
beat me
thing.
by 2 strokes.
Another one is males live by an unspoken code of honor. That is a game changer. Men are not going to ditz or dishonor another man unless he has to. It's the honor code. It's wired in there. That's what makes you guys such great soldiers.
I was going to say, because we may end up having to fight
You're
with
right.
you.
And if you think about if from that that table, if men are hunters, which means providers, provide the food, whatever, think long time ago. Warriors, protectors, kings, leaders. My husband said one day, and there's a story in here about a friend of mine going hunting with her husband, but my husband was like, a warrior and a hunter is quiet. Y'all are not. We're trying to connect. We're trying to make sure you know we're there. Why? Because we want to make sure that you're pleased with us so we know we're safe and you're going to war for us and protect us and provide for us. Like each of those are very simple, but it's all connected to these other keys in captivate, cultivate, and then communicate. All of them are ways of communication. But another one under captivate, males are captivated by females who are feminine and confident, not independent. And our culture's gotten confused about the word confident and independent. Most men don't love being around independent women because they feel like they're not going to be
Useless.
able to do their job. Exactly. And
Well, we're off center because we're constantly looking for kind of that zipper,
yeah,
right? Zippers
where do I
work.
fit?
Well, zippers work because it's every other one.
Yes.
It's like merging traffic,
Right.
right? If you've ever been on the school lane, there's a culture around an elementary school and how you drive and who gets to go next and all that stuff. And if people violate it, the zipper breaks. It doesn't work, right?
Right.
Well, if I'm around an independent woman, in like every third zipper node, she's like, "No, I own this too now." You're like, "Well, there's no way to make
Right.
this thing seamless."
Right.
Right.
We've got to find our lane, know our lane, and stay in our lane for it to work. And the cool thing is with the zipper effect, I loved when God showed this to me one day. It was like, and when you are in your place and you bring what I created you to bring, and he brings what he was created to bring, it zips up the heart of the family, the heart of the company, the heart of the corporation, the heart of the culture, and keeps the enemy out. If there is a break, there is a void and there is a hole. And I believe that's what's happened in our culture.
Beautiful. Give us another one.
You still want to be in captivate?
You drive.
I want to move to cultivate.
Okay.
And this is just the keys for men.
There was something, as you look, there was something I
Okay.
wanted to say, and that was that it does work both ways, in that all men have feminine qualities and all women have masculine qualities. And so there are elements of these keys, right, that do apply cross gender, right? Not to confuse gender, but just like
Right.
there is that athletic competitor, right, in that woman who's a great athlete, and she wants to compete,
Right.
right, and she wants to win because she wins,
Right.
and she'll lose if she needs to lose, right, and she's not to be treated differently, right. Now I might play differently if I'm, say, playing basketball with my wife and not use my 80 pounds or more of different body mass against her
Right.
as a weapon.
Right.
Right. You may choose to play the game a little differently, or respectfully, if you will. but it's still going to be a competition, right? Like when I
Right.
play with my 11-year-old son, right? I
Right.
mean, I could block every shot he takes, but I just choose not to.
Right.
And he still smokes me. But so I'm getting closer. I'm like, when he turns 12, I'm going to start blocking his shot.
Well, and the question, I think, is what's the motive?
Yeah, they come from for me. That's how I say. Yeah.
Yeah. So if your motivation is to play with him, you are wanting him to feel like a man. You're wanting to call out his masculinity in playing with him. And just to be perfectly honest, when I was growing up, I know I'm old, but when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of sports for females. I've seen the shift. And because women are so adaptable, women can shift into just about anything. But when I was writing this book, it's like, let's just go, we've gotten confused enough. Let's go into the truth about the original point that God had when he created both and know what that is. And then you can step into your athleticism or what. And there's a story in the book about my son who's way more like me than sometimes he might enjoy. But he's very creative, but when he does something creative, he does it with masculinity. He doesn't do it with femininity. So my heart is to remove the confusion and just get us back to where we can at least value the difference.
Mm-hmm. So something that's come up as you've been talking about this is when I'm on roll and on purpose, I now have an opening for peace. And then something else that my Cristie and I are working on is for today and today only.
Oh, that's good.
Right? So if I'm on purpose, like if I'm doing what I'm here to do as designed prior to the dawn of the universe, right? God knew me, right? And so I'm fulfilling that purpose. I'm hands and feet. I'm walking it out. I'm working it every day. I'm present with my wife, my kids, my job, my work, my community, wherever I'm needed. And all I'm worried about really is today, for tomorrow will have enough worries of its own, right? That all of this is countercultural, right? And what I would say, and I think you'd have to be nuts to not agree with this statement, so please show me your nuts on our social media channels by disagreeing with this, is that culture isn't working. And to the vast majority, or maybe not the majority, but to so many, is they don't have another answer, right? So like, this isn't working, but how about I keep doing what's not working because I don't know what else to do.
That's where I was.
Right. I don't know what else to do, so I'm just going to try harder. I will do more. I will sacrifice more. I will get up earlier. I will give more. I will volunteer. Whatever it is, more of more. Right. Into the abyss of darkness. Right. And so to the audience and to the folks that are triggered or resistant or whatever, my invitation is to do exactly what you did when invited into this journey of don't be attached to the results and just do it for me and let's see what happens.
Right.
And you were never tasked to do anything tomorrow or next week or next month or next year.
That's right.
It was in this moment or the next moment approaching or the next moment with dawn, try this on.
Right.
Don't be perfect at it.
Right.
Right? Just try it on. Just give it a shot. Right? And so that's the invitation to the audience here, right? Not only with the tools in the book that, may feel weird or may not be natural to you, right? Because they've been systematically eroded through the Al Bundys, if you will, right? Or the other characters in our culture or society that erode these relationships. And then there was another piece that I was reading about in here that made me think of another precipitating event, right? You spoke about the 60s, and you spoke about the feminist movement and prayer being taken out of church, but there's a precursor to that I think was hugely impactful, and that was the dearth of workers in America in World War II,
Yep.
and Rosie the Riveter, and all the women who went out and took on what were previously
Male.
men's roles in society, right? And because we needed it,
Right.
and it was a beautiful adaptation, to use your word, right? But not necessarily what was essential,
Right.
right? And so we never released that. And then, as we also see in the aftermath, so many of the soldiers came home, used the GI Bill, which is a phenomenal tool, and got first generations through college writ large. So many of those soldiers who came through were the first to ever go to college in their family.
Right.
And then that drove all of the expansion in our economy and all those things that we've seen in the last 70 years. But what it really also did was it accelerated and catalyzed this material opportunity for more, right? So I'm in the process of reading the book, The Giving Tree, which is a Shel Silverstein book, and The Lorax. Do you know the book, The Lorax? Oh, it's another children's book. But the Lorax book, it's a wonderful Dr. Seuss book, but it's all about biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering. So there's a guy who comes into this beautiful forest and cuts down a tree, and he takes the tufts of the truffle trees, and he knits the thneed, because the thneed is a wonderful thing that everybody needs. And the Lorax pops up, and he's like, "What is that that thneed? It's a thneed. It's a hat. It's a seed. It's a bicycle seed." And the Lorax, the mythical forest creature, says, "Well, nobody wants that." And he's like, "And at that time, somebody bought one for $3.98." So he sells this thneed, which looks like something out of a sweater or a movie or whatever, and so then it begins the biggering, right? What I have isn't enough, right? And so that biggering has created such a complexity in our lives. And I was just having this conversation with Preston the other day. We're wandering way off the reservation here,
all good.
right? So I had this conversation with Preston the other day, and I said, Press, who's 16 now almost, and I said to him, I have more in common with my father or my grandfather than I do with you, in terms of the generational environment of technology and abundance and just everything that's happening, right? Like we're at a watershed moment in humanity that, frankly, if we don't get the keys that are in your book here right, and really get them into our heart and our way of being, we lose the ability of relationship. And what I'm teaching my children is that the one thing AI can't do, at least not yet, is relationship. Right? It can do all the tasks, or it will soon learn to, and the robots can do the rest of it. But the thing that makes us most human is our ability of relationship. So,
And what is the most important thing to God?
love,
Relationship.
relationship. Yeah.
So the attack on our greatest need. But it's so easy to get distracted. And Dawn and I have talked about this with our kids. Like, they're used to grabbing their phone and having the answer to anything in 2 seconds from chat or whatever.
Yep.
And the conversation is something they're not used to. That takes an eternity in their mind. And I'm like, how do we break that? How do we reset that?
Well, we have to go slow enough that I don't consume my information in a tweet.
True.
Like, to the audience here, we're asking now for an hour and a half of their time.
Right.
Who knows? Guys, this could go 7 hours. Just kidding, it's not. But, but like you have to invest
Yep.
in the long form content to be able to explore and have the depth of understanding and to let an awakening or a new illumination or a new thought or a
Right.
new idea or something that wasn't fed or served to you
Right.
to surface
Right.
through the noise of the beeps on my
right,
phone and my head
right.
and everything else. Yeah.
There's never been a more distracted generation. And I think it's the answer I get when I think about that sounds trite, but prayer, like make me hungry and teachable. Hungry and teachable for truth. Because that therein is the legacy we leave. Because I don't care what the world's doing to our kids and our grandkids. They were wired by God to be known and seen and heard. And it was like when we were having this conversation with our kids, I said, I know you can get it quick, and it takes a real shift in your brain to be still and receive something. But no matter how hard you try, you will not have in you the experiential truth at 35 and 40 that we have at 70 and 72. So open yourself up to that. Pray to that end. What is it I do not know? Because all of us have had to learn what we did not know, and it's usually not pleasant when it's under duress or pressure.
So we had the conversation before that I had a real prodigal journey in my life, right? And it's really neat. So I was in the military for 24 years, and it's really neat that my very first two commanders, right, I'm back in text conversation with now. Like a relationship I never could have imagined, or a relationship that really until the recent last handful of years, I probably wouldn't have wanted because of shame or failure to perform or just not doing my best, right? Like I oftentimes performed at an exceptionally high level, and it wasn't my best. And the people that knew me or loved me or wanted the best for me would hold me accountable to my best. Even though what I was doing was 95, 97, 99.9% quality. They're like, you can do that in your sleep. I want your best. And it's just so neat to have matured to a place that now those relationships are really cherished and appreciated. And also to know those men as men and not as commanders or gods or men of immense power that hold my life and career in their hand, but they're flawed and broken in the same way. We all are. So yeah, I mean, there's a time function that I'm really beginning to personally appreciate, in that, like, it's gonna be okay, right? As long as I keep getting up every day and doing my best, and leading with love and being forgiving and present and caring and a teacher and a giver, right? Like as long as those are my ways of being, then I'm going to get through today.
So true.
Right? And then I get to do it tomorrow. Right? Give us a couple more keys, and then I think we're going to find our way. We're probably going to have you back, Cristie.
Well, that would be wonderful. I think
let's go this way. How does someone get started in this space? How do you invite somebody to stop the battle inside, to stop the judgment or the expectation, to just choose today as a new day, and to create a safe space for themselves and for those that they care most about?
that is a great question. And I think it kind of is segued in. by what's on my heart to say with response to what you just shared. The thing as we get older two things that I'm recognizing is as we grow and mature, we recognize what you just spoke into a little bit, that all of us humans are going to have regrets. Some came from being young, immature. We all start at the same point, But what I'm beginning to realize is I have them, but most of them now on this side of a personal relationship with God, most of them were accidental or out of ignorance. Now, I don't want any more than I have to have, so I stay very focused on that fact of, God, show me what you want. Show me what I'm responsible for. You will have given me authority over those things, and then you will partner with me if I will partner with you, which is why all of this happened. And in that partnership and yielding to that, we're going to be a slave to something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be a slave to me. I don't want to be a slave to an image or a perfect. I want to be the most authentic person I can be. And he will guide me, and he will correct me, and he will discipline me because he loves me. So for me to give a directive for how to get started is, first of all, revisit regrets, ask for forgiveness for the ones that you were ignorant about, and ask God to help you want to be teachable, want to walk in truth. That means humility, but make me hungry, Lord, for that, because he can. We cannot make ourselves hungry, but he can. And in that prayer of those things, simply open it up. And one thing I've learned is, and this is another thing that culture's done a work in, studies show that when we hold something, read something, respond by writing it out with our hands, something happens to our heart between our head and our hand. Open this up with a teachable heart, praying for God to make you hungry with an expectation that he wants to, because you're partnering with him, and that you will be different at the end than you were in the beginning. And it will shift the lenses you see the world with. And if Don, my husband, were here, he would say, once it's in you, it's in you. And
can't put the genie back in the bottle.
No, you can't. So you go to a mall or an airport or a shopping center or a park, or sit and watch your grandchildren play in the floor, you'll see it all over the place, but you'll be able to know not only what it is, but who created it that way. So then it kind of in reverse breathes faith and life back into you, that you are safe in the hands of the one that created you. So stay there.
So what I'm hearing is surrender. Mm-hmm. Acknowledge that my way has gotten me where I am today, mm-hmm. and take an inventory and, what's another 5 or 10 or 20 years of your current way of being going to do to your
Amen.
Your mental,
mm-hmm.
your mental state, right?
So true.
And here's the other part that this kind of weaves into this as we bring this to a close is, we're such controllers, or we can be, right? And then we lie to ourselves about the fantasy of control, like really beyond this moment. Like even this afternoon, I don't have control, let alone next week, next month, or next year, right? But we live in this fantasy in our mind, like if I can just get it all controlled, then I'll be okay, I'll be safe. Mm-hmm. And how boring would life be, mm-hmm. if we actually were able to control it? It'd be horrible. Go watch Bill Murray's Groundhog Day. It'd be awful, right? And so the invitation is to go look for those breadcrumbs, those little God winks, those little moments where you can see he's already out in the day in front of us, mm-hmm. right? Making a way. And so begin to look for that way. And I'll kind of end on this is I recently heard, we talk about these masks we wear, these ways of being, or this image we're trying to protect or whatnot. And none of that's who God made us to be. And until God can recognize us, he's not going to bless us with the full portion. He may sustain us. He may keep us going. He may, he's like, hey, I got a plan for you. And when you're ready to get over on my script, come on. But for what he really has planned for each of us, and it's different because our gifts are different, and our vision, our purpose, and our destination is all different, right? He's not going to open up all the blessing he has ready to bestow on us until he can recognize us as who he sent for the mission and the purpose he sent us for. So I can't thank you enough, Cristie. Where can people get a copy of the book, learn more, follow you if they want to book you for coaching or speaking? Give us a rundown on how to track you down.
Well, the book is on Amazon. It's digital, audible, and printed. And you can follow on Instagram and Facebook at Cristie Penn. And it is Cristie without an H, just like your Cristie. Mine is CRISTIEPENN. And that'll do it.
All right, so let's follow Cristie Penn. Amazing wisdom, beautiful heart, courageous. What a courageous, powerful woman, right? You are both powerful and gentle and feminine and loving and kind and amazing, and what a gift you are to me. So thank you, Cristie. And the book is Keys for Us. And for those of you that are an Audible, she is the reader of the book. So it's great to hear from the author, right? To hear the intonation. And there's so much communicated there. So thank you for being here. So for the audience, what action-packed, insightful, powerful sharing here from Cristie Penn. We just got a ton of jewels. And the opportunity is to go put it to work, right? You didn't get to where you are overnight. You're not going to get out of where you're at overnight. And as we said hundreds of times before, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So be gracious, be kind, be forgiving to yourself and those around you. Lead with love, open up your heart. You cannot build enough walls to keep yourself safe, so stop fighting, right? Lay it down, surrender, become at peace with yourself and then those that you love and the world around you. So thank you, Cristie. To the audience, like, subscribe. I know this hit something for you, so get the book, get into the study, get into the book and the study. Send this to people who it resonated with. And it could be somebody saying, hey, I listened to this. It made me think of you. I love you. Give it a listen, right? But that's how the community grows. It's how we get more information out there. And who wouldn't agree that this was worth hearing? This is worth your time. So share it so others get the same luxury of hearing from your wisdom. So thank you, Cristie. Until next time, my name is Gabriel Griess. I'm the host of the Navigating Leaders podcast, where we awaken your vision to live boldly. Until next time, God bless and thank you.